So, but this is fascinating because it's bringing in, I suppose, in a way, you can bring crime into anything, but any place where there's a risk or a threat could, in a certain chain of events, lead to assault, murder. You know, you could do.
Yeah.
You've got sharp implements around. You know, you could see how things could spiral.
Yeah.
But the reason I think I got back in touch with you maybe around Christmas or January time was when I became aware of this new Disney series, Stephen Graham and his wife, the Matriarch Productions thing, and they specialise in they say something like diverse stories, but often female-led stories. And I knew of Mary Carr and Alice Diamond, who are two. You wouldn't call them organised criminals because but they were very professional, and they were very organised, but they were also somewhat kind of hectic and on the hoof as well, a bit ad hoc. But they're quite well known in the circles I've been working in for the last couple of years to do with my gangs research. So I knew of Alice quite well because Alice comes through the Second World War and lived into the 1950s. And she passed her knowledge on to somebody else called Shirley Pitts, who then lived into the 90s. So Alice feels quite recent to me. But before Alice, there was Mary. And Mary Carr is the star of the new series. It's called 1,000 Blows. And I suppose my first question on this, what I thought was that at some point we would look at how you can adapt clothes in the way that these girls did to steal more stuff.
Yeah.
And they used to get an enormous amount of clothing and underwear and dresses and rolls of silk and stuff literally into their underwear, and then leave the shop surreptitiously and drop it into a car and then come back and get some more. And we see that in the series, actually. But my first question really was, did you know about these gangs, these female shoplifter gangs, before I mentioned it?
No, I'd never heard of these, so it's quite a revelation. I think it's really audacious and cheeky. And the first thing I thought of was this lady at the tailoring company who would bring in these bags. And I was like, where are you getting all this stuff from? And she says, well, these gangs go in, balaclavaed up and gloves, and they would just, shop fronts would have the doors open to encourage customers to come in, and they would just go in, grab all the hangers, and then just walk out, and they would have a stolen car with the engine running, and they would be able to clear a shop floor in 30 seconds because they would practice. Yeah. They had warehouses set up. And I was so shocked because I'd led quite a sheltered life. I'd never heard of anything.
Well, neither had I, really. I started looking at it in about 2021, and very quickly, you know, you go through all the male gangsters, and that's the ones that everybody's heard of, and there's a lot of books and films about those. The Peaky Blinders actually was one of the reasons I got into this area. It's very well known. But when you get into the female side, you start to find the stories that are not that difficult to find, but nobody knows about them. And I think they're more interesting because the men just use physical presence and violence and threats to just get whatever they wanted. Whereas the women had to be more organised. And what you were describing there is almost like industrial shoplifting. And I think most people, when they think of shoplifting, think of one person nicking one thing, quietly sticking it in their pocket or whatever, and quietly leaving. These people just came in like a group, like a rush of
It was planned.
energy.
It was scheduled. They knew which stores they were going to hit on certain days. And of course, you know, stealing is terrible. And, you know, I don't condone theft at all.
No, we know that. That's okay. We know you don't do this. I mean, you know how to do it, but you don't actually...
Oh, my God.
You wouldn't actually do this in Harrods, would you?
No.
Just for the recording. Just for the police.
Never, ever.
It sounds so easy, though. They didn't care. You said about balaclavas. These girls didn't disguise themselves at all. They just didn't care. Obviously, there was no CCTV back then.
Yeah,
so
and probably no security guards either.
No security guards, or at least very basic. And many people did criticise the shops like Harrods because this idea of putting the clothes on display was new back then. They used to be behind cupboards and cabinets.
Oh, yeah, you would have salons. So the customer, she would walk into a salon, she would have made an appointment, she would be known to the vendors, and that's the lady who goes out and procures all these, clients who are, like, middle class, middle upper class, you know, certainly not working class, because working class people would generally make their own clothes from cast-offs or hand-me-downs or second-hand, you know.
So obviously they're expensive clothes. Working class girls couldn't afford them. But that reminds me of something else, is that one of the ways and reasons that these girls were so successful is because they had these skills, whether it was not necessarily tailoring, but they had skills from domestic service, which were practical skills, like you said, make, do and mend and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They knew what to steal, they knew what was valuable, they could go through all these silks and rolls and fabrics and pick the most valuable to steal. Mm-hmm. So they had a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
They knew obviously where to go, and because they were female, they were welcomed into the shops to buy stuff.
Because these people didn't think that women were capable of such things.
But they were dressed like ladies. You'll see in the series, they're dressed very fine, like aristocrats. In fact, Mary Carr in the series does pretend to be a lady for a particular reason. And she goes to a ball, and she changes her accent, and she dresses up, and then she'll rob there's a scene where they empty a glass case of silverware, and all these ladies all dressed up empty the case of silverware and leg it, literally running out that stately home with the silverware. And it's the audacity. Yeah, they've like got the
petticoats,
trying to run in these petticoats,
and
they're climbing out of windows and going down ropes.
God.
They're absolutely hard as nails. This is why I like them. They're proper working class. I'm going to say heroes.
Anti-heroes, almost.
Anti-heroes.
Yeah.
They're skilled. The way they walk is extremely, not quite arrogant, but very confident and very like. The men were afraid of them. You know, they had guns, knives. It's amazing. They're absolutely incredible. And the series is.
I want to see this.
It's incredible. It's on Disney. It will be on. I'm sure it'll be on like BBC eventually. But
I hope so. Yeah.
they've shown 6 episodes, and that gets us to the halfway point, and they've already made the next 6 or whatever, which are not out yet. But we enjoyed it. There's other series around like Dope Girls as well on BBC, which is available for free, obviously. That's a different group, but it's the same period of time. These were girls that you'd have to say they were women. They were a little bit older, but they were business people. They ran nightclubs. So the Dope Girls ran nightclubs in Soho. But the problem then was that the licensing laws only allowed you to sell alcohol until 10. And if you did that, you couldn't make a profit. You would go bust. The only way to make money was to sell it illegally after hours. And as soon as you do that, then the police come in. They're always susceptible to being raided. Then there's criminals come in to protect them from the police. And the whole thing's, just because of the stupid licensing laws, becomes dangerous. It becomes risky, dangerous, and a lot of the women, like Kate, who's in the series, she's based on a real person, Kate Mayrick, she ends up in prison in Holloway for many, if you add it all up, it's several years.
Wow.
And the only crime was selling alcohol after 10 o'clock at night. And she went to prison.
Isn't it? Because they were making an example of her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was awful. And every time she came out of prison, she just carried on, and she got several nightclubs around London. She got one in Paris. She made a ton of money. All the famous film stars came through. When they were over from Hollywood, they would go to her clubs because they were famous for having a good time.
Yeah, no sobriety.
So there's dancing. I think the drugs were not a big thing. It's called Dope Girls, but I think that's jazzed up a bit. It was really just some booze and some...
What period would this
dancing.
be?
This is 1920s, 1930s.
1920s, okay.
It's a little bit after the Mary Carr, but exactly when Alice Diamond would have been working. And they know some of the same people.
Yeah.
So Alice Diamond knows the Elephant Boys, Brian McDonald's gangs, some of the gangs that you'll be reading about. They all knew of each other. I mean, London's a big place, but it's not that big, is it? They all knew.
It's small circles. It's like the fashion industry. So I work at a certain level. We all know each other, and the work gets passed around.
Yes,
so
it was just like that. They married each other. They knew, they had friends and family. A lot of them were from Italy. There's the Sabinis and the Corteses who came from Italy. We're just talking about just outside
Maltese as well.
Maltese, yeah.
Because my husband worked on the strip clubs in the 1980s, and he knew all the Maltese gangsters and everything. Yeah.
Well, I think in some senses, nightclubs and stuff have always had I don't think so much here, but abroad, you tend to think of nightclubs being run as operations to get cash through from the underworld.
Oh, right? Money laundering.
Money laundering,
definitely.
that's the word.
Yeah.
Money laundering, well, not in laundry, but it's all the same. The terminology's there, isn't it? It's like you're cleaning the money, putting it through a nightclub. That's always been a thing. I think it's hopefully less of a thing now. I don't know.
I think when you've got nightclubs, alcohol, cash,
drugs, girls,
gorgeous girls, handsome boys, you know. Yeah.
Some things.
I mean, just recent, it was before lockdown, so about 6 years ago. And I got asked Friday night to make something, and I was like, okay, I have to go and get the fabric very early morning. Saturday, I'll go to the Silk Society when we still had loads of fabric shops down Brewer Street.
Yes,
and Beak Street. And my husband made me breakfast, so I was about an hour late. And when I got there were police cars all around. I think it's the Silk Society, it's like the corner shop. And there was robbery and all these masked guys. They opened the doors at 8:30. One of the girls went to the loo, which was on the 3rd floor, and this gang must have been watching them. And the girl who remained was only 5'1", and 2 guys grabbed her, threw her on the counter, pinned her down. And by the time the second sales assistant came back down, all the expensive beaded fabrics on bolts, they were all gone. They had emptied the shop in 2.5 minutes.
2.5 minutes?
2.5 minutes.
See, I mean, this is like...
So this is like something out of your TV series.
This is what you see in the TV show, and it's like...
So it still goes on.
It's amazing, isn't it? And one thing I do remember when I was researching for this, obviously we're talking about 100 years ago and more at the moment, mainly. But there was a bit where I found a TikTok video of a girl coming out of Lidl they say in Germany, but Lidl supermarket, or some supermarket, like modern day, like 2 years ago, let's say. And the police stopped her, or the security guard stopped her and said, I think you've got something that you haven't paid for. And she takes something out of her dress. And then he goes, I think you've got something else. And then this goes on for like a minute.
No.
And it's like a magic trick.
No.
And it's like today.
Oh my God, you have to send it to me.
I've got it. I'll get it. It's either YouTube or TikTok. And she's bringing out like a shopping trolley full of
like
stuff.
Like a magician with like all these
out of her underwear.
Of sausage. No.
Just like under a skirt. In a coat. She's got a long coat and a big dress.
Oh.
And she's just pulling this stuff out for it's like a shopping trolley's worth of food and gear.
That is insane.
And it still goes on. And there's a lot in the news about shoplifting because of the cost of living, isn't there? And I imagine somebody taking 1 tin of beans.
No, I've seen this with my own eyes at my little mini waitress. This homeless guy ran in. No, he sort of like walked in. Everybody was giving him a bit of a wide berth because, you know, he was quite pungent and it was summer. And then he just walked to the steaks and he just grabbed all the steaks and he just walked out.
He didn't run.
He didn't run. He just walked out. And the sales assistant was like, yeah, they've stolen the steaks and all the red meat and everything, like all the premium cuts.
Yeah, they know what to get that's more valuable for the weight or the size.
And then they go in the pub around the corner and just flog it $5 for each.
I think that's the thing that surprises me about all of this is the brazenness of it. It's the fact that there's... You do imagine shoplifters to be ashamed or embarrassed.
No, they're not. When you see it happening...
They just don't care.
There was a businessman... And he walked into a Pret, and I noticed him because he had this beautiful tailored suit and the overcoat. I thought, oh my God, it's so unusual to see someone in a suit. And he was very tall and handsome. He walked to the Pret, and then he filled his arms up with sandwiches, and then he just walked out. I was so shocked, and I went up to the counter.
They don't care either, do they?
That guy took like 30 sandwiches. And they're like, what did he look like? And I said, well, he had this 3-piece suit on. It was beautifully tailored, pinstripe.
You probably knew exactly where the cloth was made and all the rest of
I could describe what he was wearing. I said, check your CCTV. And they went, oh, it doesn't work. It's just there for
They just don't care. I think that's what's changed maybe, is that the people who work in the shops now don't own the shops.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas in our day, you know, there'd be corner shops, there'd be smaller family businesses maybe. Where
absolutely, yeah.
You wouldn't be getting out there alive if you'd nicked anything. You know, they'd beat you up.
Absolutely, yeah.
Whereas now they're just employees of a massive company, and it's not worth them risking their own lives to get involved, so they just let them walk out.
Absolutely.
And there's no... Anyway, so we're not meant to be talking about the punishment side of this, but it is interesting that when I look back at 1920, I find it exciting that these women did this. But when we talk about today, or yesterday in Lidl's, I think this is a bit unseemly. It's wrong.
It's grubby.
It's grubby. But they're not doing anything different now to what they were doing then. It's just that then it feels glamorous to us because it's different costumes. It's
probably because of the outfits and everything.
Yeah, it looks classy.